giving lecture, and this song is called Radha Madhava. Madhava is another name from Krishna, which actually comes from a word, madhu, which means honey. Like us in some European languages, you say myod, honey. So Madhava. So Radha Madhava, this is a song which describes Radha and Krishna. It describes also the place where Krishna appeared on earth, which is Vrindavana, and it describes also the inhabitants of Vrindavana and the nature in Vrindavana. Vrindavana is no different from the spiritual world. It's the spiritual world manifested in this universe.
We can have a little more sound.
So everybody got the text? Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jai Om Vishnu Padpam Saparvijikasharasta Tarasata Isi Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnu Padpam Saparvijikasharasta Tarasata Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Ki Jai. Shishi Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinata Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki Jai. Mathura Dhamma Ki Jai. Navadvipa Dhamma Ki Jai. Mayapur Dhamma Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dhamma Ki Jai. Jagannatha Swami Ki Jai. Vrindavana Dhamma Ki Jai. Gangi Manamai Ki Jai. Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Gaur Premananda. Sama Veda Bhaktavinda Ki Jai. All glories to some devotees. All glories to some devotees. All glories to some devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. So this which I was reciting right now, they are called the Prema Dvani prayers, and we offer obeisances to the all the spiritual masters and acharyas in our disciplic succession, from whom we have inherited this knowledge and this tradition. So for those of you who have not been here always, we are reading from a book which is called, could you give me the Bhagavad Gita? I will need it. Thank you. We're reading from a book which is called Sri Isopanishad. So Isha, as many of you know who speak Hindi, Isha means God, Supreme Lord. Upanishad, it's a series of scriptures from the Vedas, and it means basically sitting near to a spiritual master. So Isha Upanishad, it's the Upanishad which teaches us about Isha, about the Supreme Lord. And we have been already reading some verses. So today we're going to read verse number 5, and together in the invocation is number 6. And the Isopanishad is a very interesting book because it gradually introduces us to the concept of God. It's a philosophical scripture, so it introduces us to different qualities of God. In the first verses, one was explaining that actually God, or Krishna, as we call God, or Vishnu, it owns everything. Everything within the universe is owned and controlled by the Lord. And the Lord created everything in complete harmony, like we can see on the earth, how the earth is a complete whole, and sometimes when human beings try to do something good, which I think is good, it destroys this harmony, but God created as a harmony. And if we want to progress in life and to live a happy life in this material world, we must find this harmony created by the Supreme Lord and live in accordance with that harmony. So this was the first verses. Now from last mantra, from mantra number 4, the Upanishad starts to describe the qualities of the Lord. So in the previous verse, which we read, verse number 4, it says that the Supreme Lord is fixed in his abode, Vaikuntha, or Krishna Loka, depending which aspect of God we are talking about. He's swifter than the mind. So we know that the mind is very fast, is actually immediate. If you think about something, you can think about your home. You're immediately there. There is no time. The mind is immediate. But here it says the Lord is swifter than the mind. And today we're going to speak a little bit about that fact. And even great demigods, they cannot approach the Supreme Lord. So sometimes there is this misunderstanding that there is many gods, but the Upanishad doesn't accept. There is one Supreme Personality of Godhead. God may appear in different forms, in different incarnations, avatars as we call, but there is definitely a difference between God, Krishna, Bhagavan, and the Devas, the demigods, who control the universe. So even the Lord is situated in one place, still He controls everything within the universe. This was the last verse. And today we're going to read mantra number 5. So I will read the Sanskrit first, so you can repeat after me. Okay? Try to do this. Okay, Tat. I forgot one thing. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So now we're going to read this mantra 5. Tat. Ejati. Tat. Na. Ejati. Tat. Dure. Tat. U. Antike. Tat. Antaha. Asya. Sarvasya. Tat. U. Sarvasya. Asya. Bahyata. Tadejati. Tanai. Okay. Tadejati. Tanaijati. Tadejati. Tanaijati. Tattadure tadvantike.
Tatvadure Tadvantike.
Tadantarasya sarvasya.
Tadantarasya Sarvasya.
Tadantarasya sarvasya. Tadur sarvasya bahiyata.
Tadu Sarvasya Bahistaha.
Tadu sarvasya bahyata.
Tadu Sarvasya Bahyata.
Okay, so now we're going to read what every Sanskrit word means. So I read the Sanskrit and the English, and you can. So Tat, the Supreme Lord. Ejati, walks. Tat, he. Na, not. Ejati, walks. Tat, he. Dure, far away. Tat, he. U, also. Antike, very near. Tat, he. Antaha, within. Asya, of this. Sarvasya, of all. Tat, he. U, also. Sarvasya, of all. Asya, of this. Bahyata, external to. So now comes the translation. The Supreme Lord walks and does not walk. He is far away, but he is very near as well. He is within everything, and yet he is outside of everything. It's a very beautiful verse. So you can repeat after me. The Supreme Lord walks and does not walk. He is far away, but he is very near as well. He is within everything, and yet he is outside of everything. It's a very mystical verse. So we are going to read the purport. And I normally go paragraph by paragraph because I take a few notes. So, purport by Srila Prabhupada. Here is an explanation of the Supreme Lord's transcendental activities as executed by his inconceivable potencies. Contradictions are given here by the way of proving the inconceivable potencies of the Lord. He walks and he does not walk. Such a contradiction serves to indicate the inconceivable power of God. With our limited fund of knowledge, we cannot make accommodations for such contradictions. We can only conceive of the Lord in terms of our limited powers of understanding. The impersonalist philosophers of the Mayavada school accept only the Lord's impersonal activities and reject his personal feature. The Bhagavata school, however, accepts the Lord as both personal and impersonal. The Bhagavatas also accept his inconceivable potencies, for without them there can be no meaning to the words Supreme Lord. So here, the whole idea of this purport, of this paragraph, is to introduce us to the idea that the Supreme Lord is inconceivable. Because there is something called logic, which likes the rules of reasoning, which we study in school. All men have hair, Socrates is a man, Socrates has hair, whatever. We have this logic. So we have been touching a little bit earlier, in earlier verses, that just by logic, one cannot understand the Supreme Lord. And this is why the Isopanishad gives these statements which appear to be a little bit contradictory, because if you speak about a normal person, I mean, you don't have a person who can walk and cannot walk at the same time. He either can or he cannot. Of course, maybe some people can walk on Monday and not on Tuesday. Then he would say he can walk sometimes. But here it's very, very definitive. Supreme Lord cannot walk. And at the same time he can walk. And before, in the previous verse, not only can he walk, but he can walk immediately. He's immediately everywhere. He's swifter than the mind. So here the Upanishad is provoking a little bit our intelligence in order to introduce us to the fact that the Supreme Lord is a person, because if you're not speaking about a person, you cannot say that he can walk. Only persons can walk, and only persons can see, actually. And only persons can be either near or far away, or inside or outside, as it's described in this verse. So here in this first paragraph, there is two main concepts. The first one is that the Supreme Lord is inconceivable, because we don't know about anybody who can walk and not walk, who is within and without simultaneously, and who is actually nowhere and is everywhere at the same time. And at the same time, it introduces us to the idea that the Supreme Lord is a person. In the Krishna conscious movement, we follow a school which is called the Bhagavata school. So the Bhagavata school, it comes from the word Bhagavan. And Bhagavan implies personality, because God has different aspects. Like I remember when I started to study Hinduism, before I came to Krishna consciousness, I couldn't understand what they were talking about, because they say God is everywhere, God is nowhere, God is an energy, and He is the basis of everything, and you cannot find Him. I mean, it was all these statements, but they were not properly explained. Actually, only when I came to Krishna consciousness, I was able to understand that the Supreme Lord has different aspects. We normally, in the Bhagavatam, it is explained that the Supreme Personality of God has three aspects. The first aspect, it's called His impersonal aspect, which is called Brahman or Brahmajyoti. Then the Supreme Lord has another aspect which is called Paramatma. And then above all these aspects, He has one aspect which is His personal aspect, which is Bhagavan. So how do we describe these different aspects of the Lord? Bhagavan, this is the person, like Srila Prabhupada gives in the purport in the Bhagavad Gita. If we speak about the Lord, we can compare Lord with the sun planet. The place, the sun, everything emanates. The sun rays, the light, the heat, everything emanates from the sun planet. So in the same way, Bhagavan, the Supreme Person, everything emanates from Him. And the other aspects, like the Paramatma. What is the Paramatma? We mentioned that Bhagavan is a person, is a person. So when we come to the material world, the Supreme Lord, so when the Jiva, the spirit soul, the Atma, comes into this material world, the Supreme Lord follows the Supreme Lord, the individual soul. And that aspect of the Lord is called Paramatma. So there is the Atma within ourselves, and there is Paramatma. So this is the second aspect of the Lord. The Lord keeps also, this aspect of Paramatma also keeps the order within the universe. There is an order, a very strict order in matter, which scientists are trying to understand, but there is a problem with science, is that when they try to understand the nature of matter, they always find something smaller. Like when I went to school in the 70s, 1970, so there was like a few particles, maybe 3 particles. Today, I think we are on 60, 80, 100, many undefined. So the more they dig into matter, they find that it's more and more subtle. And actually there is scientists who say that actually matter is actually no different from the mind. We could say the mind of God. Sometimes people say this world is a dream. But who is dreaming? We are dreaming, but when we dream, not much happens. We wake up and the dream is gone. Yeah, it's a dream, but it's a dream of Mahavishnu. So this aspect of Paramatma, it keeps the world functioning. It keeps the atoms in their orbit. It keeps the track of the karma of everybody, and it's the constant companion of our constant companion in this world. Because otherwise, we probably would be completely lost if we didn't have the Supreme Lord together with us in this material world. Even with the Supreme Lord is very difficult. Can you imagine if we were completely alone? So the Supreme Lord is very kind. So He manifests in this form as Paramatma and follows every jiva every individual soul in his journey in this material world, life after life. Brahma Jyoti, the third aspect of the Lord Brahman, this is many times described as light. So this light in many religions, and also we're going to see further here in the Upanishad, in Isopanishad, that this light emanating from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Brahma Jyoti, is actually composed by all the living entities. So we are part of Brahman. We are part of this Brahma Jyoti, this impersonal energy which is emanating from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and which is the basis of everything, of the whole creation. Brahmanohi Pratishtam. So the Bhagavat school, what distinguishes us from everybody else is that we say that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, above everything, is a person. You'll find schools in India, like Shankaracharya, for instance. They say that the Supreme Lord is not a person. He just becomes a person so that we can understand him, because we are also persons. But then you can argue, if we come from Brahman, if we are no different from Brahman, and we are persons, how can Brahman be impersonal? How can we have something which is not in our origin? But anyway, we're not going to get into this. This discussion has been going on for 1,000 years, so we're not going to clear it now here, but I just wanted to mention that. So Bhagavata school. So now we're going to the second paragraph. I mean, Emma, how long am I supposed to go on? Just first paragraph.
Everyone loves to hear more, and you can.
I just got the first paragraph, and there's 9 of them. So I'm gonna move. We should not take it for granted that just because we cannot see God with our eyes, the Lord does not have a personal existence. Sri Isopanishad refutes his argument by warning us that the Lord is far away, but very near also. The abode of the Lord is beyond the material sky, and we have no means to measure even this material sky. So the size of the universe. Where does it end? How does it end? Is there a wall? We cannot measure. If the material sky extends so far, then what to speak of the spiritual sky, which is altogether beyond it? That the spiritual sky is situated far, far away from the material universe is also confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 15:6. But despite the Lord's being so far away, he can at once, within less than a second, descend before us with a speed swifter than the mind or the wind. He can also walk so swiftly that no one can surpass him. This has already been described in the previous verse. So this paragraph analyzes here the first statement of the Lord, that is far away and is very near. So the Supreme Lord is far away for those who want him to be far away. If one tries to approach the Supreme Lord, actually one realizes, first of all, one realizes that Krishna, as we spoke earlier before, in his form as Paramatma, is within our heart, and he's actually very, very accessible. But if one wants to avoid God, then God is very, very far away. So this distance, actually in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Prabhupada, he explains that the distance to the spiritual world is not in kilometers. So it's not that, of course there are these descriptions in the Vedas, that there is the universe and beyond the universe and this and that. But Srila Prabhupada explains the main ingredients, the main the main factor which measures the distance to the spiritual world is our sincerity. So if we are sincere to understand God, if we are sincere to advance in spiritual life, then the spiritual world, even if it's, so to say, by material calculations very far away, it is here at the same time. This paragraph also gives a little bit a hint to the complicated, how do you say, the complicated structure of the universe. How, how things are happening, not in the three-dimensional space as we think of it. You could translate? Poor translators. So, like for instance, we were singing this song about Vrindavana. So Vrindavana, the place where Lord Krishna appeared, there's a place on the map which is called Vrindavana. But actually, when you go to Vrindavana, there is different levels of Vrindavana. There is the earth, which you see, but if you have a spiritual vision, you will see not this earth, and you will see not the mass, which is material, but you will see actually the spiritual world, the Krishna's planet. So things are not always what they seem to be, and this is a little bit explained here, that Krishna is very far away, but at the same time, if we are sincere, if we are honest in our spiritual quest, then Krishna will be very near. He'll be actually walking with us all the time, following us, giving us advice, and being our constant companion. But it depends on us. God is neutral. We can see there is this modern civilization which has actually becoming more and more demoniac, I would call it. Asuras are very prevalent on earth right now. And they don't want to see God, and for them God doesn't exist, and they go on with their activities until they come to one point where their activities lead to their own destruction. This is a little bit the problem. When we disconnect from God, our activities will gradually lead, first of all, to our suffering, but it can lead also gradually, eventually, to our destruction. So it's very important to understand, first of all, that there is a God and that we have a relationship with Him. So the Supreme Lord is far away, yeah, because it's described that these planets, I don't know if we have a picture here, these spiritual planets, they are, no pictures, there must be pictures here. No pictures in this edition. So normally it's described that the spiritual world, which is called sometimes Paravyoma, the transcendental sky, is situated beyond this universe, and it is. But we are spiritual living entities, the Lord is spiritual, so anytime this connection can be reestablished. So now we're going into the third paragraph, which says, "Yet when the personality of Godhead comes before us, we neglect Him. Such foolish negligence is condemned by the Lord in Bhagavad Gita, wherein the Lord says that the foolish deride Him when they consider Him to be a mortal being. He is not a mortal being, nor does He come before us with a body produced of material nature. There are many so-called scholars who contend that the Lord descends in a body made of matter, just like an ordinary living being. Not knowing His inconceivable power, such foolish men place the Lord on a level equal to that of ordinary men." So this is also a very important point, that when we speak about the Supreme Lord being a person, we must also notice and make the comment that the Supreme Lord is a person, but is not a material person. The body of the Supreme Lord is transcendental. It means it's not composed of any of these material elements. We know that the Vedic literatures, they categorize the material elements into 8 categories: Bhumir, Apo, Nalo, Vayur, Kam, Mano, Buddhirevacha, Ahankara. So there is, these are just general divisions. Earth, no, I lost myself. Earth, water, fire, air, and ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. So this is general divisions. Within each one of them, there is many kinds of earth also. There is many liquids, there is different gases, so on. But these are the general qualifications. So the Supreme Lord's body is not made of any of these elements. Of course, people which are 100% materialistic, they want to explain everything in material terms. But you cannot explain the personality of Godhead and the spiritual world and the activities and the body of the Lord in material terms. So this Upanishad tells us that the Supreme Lord has a transcendental body, not made of material energy. Our inner, inner essence, Atma, the Atma, our personality, is also not material. Actually, when I go to school classes, one has 1 hour to explain, maybe 45 minutes, and I always make this question: we must investigate, are we just chemicals? Obviously we have a body made of chemicals. This we cannot deny. But is there anything else in there, or it's just chemicals? So this is a good way to start. Am I just a lump of chemicals? Everything will be finished when the body dies? Or is there something within me which is not chemical? So, not chemical, not material, I would say. So definitely, for us who follow the Vedas, this is so. We are transcendental living entities. So we continue. Because the Lord, He is full of inconceivable potencies, God can accept our service through any sort of medium, and He can convert His different potencies according to His own will. I remember when I was in school, there was this class of philosophy, and then they had this problem: can God make a stone which is so heavy that He cannot lift it? You never heard this, but here in Europe, you had philosophy in school too, no? So they made this question: can God make a stone which is so heavy that He cannot lift it? And the answer is yes. God can make a stone which is so heavy He cannot lift it, and then He will lift it anyway, and He can make it even heavier and again lift it. So this is a little bit material logic. Why would God make a stone and lift it up anyway? Non-believers argue that the Lord cannot incarnate Himself at all, and if He does, He descends in a form of material energy. So this argument is nullified if we accept the inconceivable potencies of the Lord to be realities. Even if the Lord appears before us in the form of material energy, it is quite possible for Him to convert this material energy into spiritual energy. Since the source of the energies is one and the same, the energies can be utilized according to the will of their source. For example, the Lord can appear in the Archa Vigraha, that is in the form of deities, supposedly made of earth, stone, or wood. These forms, although engraved from wood and stone or other matter, are not idols, as the iconoclasts contend. Iconoclasts is people who destroy deities. In our present state of imperfect material existence, we cannot see the Supreme Lord due to imperfect vision. Yet, those devotees who want to see Him by means of material vision are favored by the Lord, who appears in a so-called material form to accept His devotees' service. One should not think that such devotees who are on the lowest stage of devotional service are worshipping an idol. They are factually worshipping the Lord, who has agreed to appear before them in an approachable way. Nor is the archa form fashioned according to the whims of the worshipper. It is eternally existent with all its paraphernalia. This can actually be felt by a sincere devotee, but not by an atheist. So, Srila Prabhupada is introducing us here. Okay, the Supreme Lord, He's in the spiritual world. He's very far. He's also very near, but we cannot see Him. So, how shall we progress from here? And Srila Prabhupada explains, Krishna, the Supreme Lord, can make Himself available by appearing in the form of Archa Vigraha. So Archa Vigraha is the form of the deity. Sometimes people use the word idol. Srila Prabhupada used the word deity because the deities on the altar are not idols. Actually, in the Hare Krishna temples, in general, one performs a ceremony which is called installation of the deities. And what is this ceremony? In this ceremony, the devotees pray to the Lord in the following way. They say, "My dear Lord, we cannot see you in your spiritual form, but we want to serve you, so please accept this form, which is here, so that we can serve you." And Krishna, if the devotees are sincere and if the procedure is properly executed, Krishna will accept that form. And then that form is not an idol anymore. It's a deity. It's the Supreme Lord is fully present in that form. And actually, in the story of Vaishnavism, there is very interesting stories about deities. One story which comes immediately to my mind is one story which is called Sakshi Gopal. Sakshi means witness. And this story goes as follows, that there was one Brahmana, and that Brahmana had a servant, and this servant served that Brahmana very nicely, and he was very happy with that servant. So one way he wanted to show his happiness, his satisfaction with the service of that devotee, is that he promised to let him marry his daughter. And in those days in India, things were very separated, and the servant said, this will never be possible because, they have all this Varna, there's hundreds of regulations about Varna and Ashrama. So anyway, so there is this regulation, so it will not be possible. Yes? So the servant asked, can you promise this in front of the deity? Yes, let's go. So they went in front of Gopal. And the Brahmana said, I promise to give you my daughter in marriage. So the servant went back to his village and he started to prepare for the marriage, and he told everybody that he's going to get married, and you know, he told all his family and everything, and yeah, so he was prepared. So meanwhile, the family of the Brahmana was working on him. This was not a good decision. He doesn't belong to our caste, you know. Oh, no, this is not going to work. What the neighbor's going to say, the forefathers are going to curse us, you know, all this. So the Brahmana was starting to become more and more shaky because, I mean, he didn't want to break his promise. He didn't want to make his family upset. So, so he went to speak with his servant, and he said, I'm sorry, you know, my family made so many arguments, you know, just I have to, you know, this cannot happen. So the servant was thinking, you know, about himself, but he was also thinking about this Brahmana, that it's not good that he breaks a promise. So he said, anyway, you promised me in front of the deity, and let this deity be my witness. So the servant went to the deity and he said, dear Gopal, I have this problem. You know, my master, this Brahmana, he has promised me his daughter. Now he wants to go back. And I have no other witnesses. You must come. And the deity said, I'm a deity, I cannot walk. And said, but the servant said, but deities cannot speak either. You speaking. Come on, I got you. So please come with me. So he asked this deity to come, this Gopal deity, and the deity came. And of course, when the deity came, this was a relatively far distance. I think this happened in Orissa, somewhere.
I went to that temple.
Where is that?
In Odisha.
Yeah. I didn't know if it was Orissa or Bihari, but anyway, so Gopal witnessed the promise of his devotees. So there is many of these stories with deities, with Lord Jagannath, and people pray to the deities, and there is many proofs that these deities are actually not idols. They are just the Supreme Personality of God is fully present there. So we should never say idols. We should always say the deity or Archavigraha. So that the Supreme Lord takes this form, this does not mean that the Supreme Lord is limited to this form. I mean, like we come here and say, oh, Krishna, he's very little. He cannot do much. No. The Supreme Personality of God is fully in form of the deity. And therefore, in deity worship, there is many regulations. We know how to approach the deity, how to serve the deity. It should be regular. You know, one should avoid offenses. There is offenses if one learns deity worship. There is offenses to be avoided. So, and why? Because the Supreme Lord is directly there, and it's a great responsibility to be able to serve the Supreme Lord. So now we go on a little bit. In the Bhagavad Gita 4.11, I actually wanted to read all these verses, but I never got. The Lord indicates that He relates to His devotees in turn of the devotees' surrender. So He reserves the right to expose Himself not to anyone and everyone, but to those souls who are surrendered unto Him. Thus, for the surrendered soul, He is always within reach whereas for the unsurrendered soul, he is far, far away and cannot be approached. So in this connection, Srila Prabhupada actually used to give the example. He was in America, so you go to the White House and said, I want to see the president. Bring me the president, I want to talk to him. They're just going to carry him out. And this is just a material example, to speaking with a mundane person. So we cannot actually force ourselves to see God, but we can act in such a way that God wants to see us. So we cannot. Supreme Lord, he can make himself completely unavailable. So in this connection, the word saguna, guna means quality, and saguna means with qualities, and nirguna means without qualities. So in this connection, the word saguna and nirguna, words occurring often in revealed scriptures, are very important. The word saguna does not imply that the Lord becomes subject to the laws of material nature when he appears, although he has perceivable qualities and appears in material form. For him, there is no difference between the material and spiritual energies because he is the source of all energies. As the controller of all energies, he cannot at any time be under the influence as we are. The material energy works according to his direction. Therefore, he can use that energy for his purpose without ever being influenced by any of the qualities of that energy. Nor does the Lord become a formless entity at any time, for ultimately he is the eternal form, the primeval Lord. His impersonal aspect, or Brahman effulgence, is but the glow of his personal rays, just as the sun rays are the glow of the sun god. So here this is there is also this discussion going on. If the Supreme Lord is saguna or nirguna. So the Supreme Lord definitely has qualities, like one of the qualities of the Lord, he has affection for his devotees. Just example. Nirguna, it means he has qualities, but he has no material qualities. So saguna and nirguna. The impersonalists, they say that God is not a person, God is an energy, and therefore he is nirguna. So they use this nirguna in a different connotation than we use in the Bhagavata school, than the Vaishnavas use. We say that God has qualities, many qualities, unlimited qualities, but none of these qualities is material. We're not going to dwell on this because I'm late. When the child saint Prahlad Maharaj was in the presence of his atheistic father, his father asked him, where is your God? When Prahlad replied that God resides everywhere, the father angrily asked whether his God was within one of the pillars of the palace, and the child said yes. The atheist immediately shattered the pillar in front of him to pieces, and the Lord instantly appeared as Nrsimha, the half-man, half-lion incarnation, and killed the atheistic king. Thus, the Lord is within everything, and he creates everything by his different energies. Through his inconceivable powers, he can appear at any place in order to favor his sincere devotee. Lord Nrsimha appeared from within the pillar, not by the order of the atheist king, but by the wish of his devotee Prahlad. An atheist cannot order the Lord to appear, but the Lord will appear anywhere and everywhere to show mercy to his devotee. Bhagavad Gita 4.8 similar states that the Lord appears to vanquish non-believers and to protect the believers. Of course, the Lord has sufficient energies and agents who can vanquish the atheists, but it is pleasing for him to personally favor a devotee. Therefore, he descends as an incarnation. Actually, he descends only to favor his devotees and not for any other purpose. So this verse here, 4:8, it's I think it's Paritranaya Sadhunam Vinashaya Chaduskritam. 4:8. Yeah. Paritranaya Sadhunam Vinashaya Chaduskritam Dharma Samstapanartaya Sambhavami Yuge Yuge. So to deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to re-establish the principles of religion, I myself appear millennium after millennium. So the Supreme Lord appears in this world to please his devotees. This is the main purpose of the Supreme Lord. Okay, he will destroy a few million of demons, but that's just like when you're cleaning the house, you sweep out all the ants and the spiders and everything, but I mean, you're just cleaning the house. So Krishna doesn't come, his main purpose, his pleasure is to satisfy the devotees, and therefore he appears. And this story of Prahlad Maharaj is very, very interesting, and I think we're going to sing today. We sing Namaste in the end, yeah? So if you read the translation of these texts, it says that the Supreme Lord, Nrsingadev, is within and without. Ito Nishingo, Parato Nishingo, is here and there. Bahir Nishingo, he's outside and he's in the inside, he's present everywhere. And the reason why this text is there, it's a little bit related in the way as Lord Nrsingadev manifested. Because there's the story of Hiranyakashipu and Prahlad Maharaj, as we call him. Prabhupada uses this word, the child saint, Prahlad. So, child saint Prahlad Maharaj. So, he was the son of a demon. His father, Hiranyakashipu, he was not only a demon, he was completely inimical towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And it is funny that sometimes these demons, of course there's Hiranyakashipu and Kamsa, they are special demons. But sometimes it is interesting when you read the Srimad Bhagavatam to understand how these demons, how they think, because they're supposed to be logic. Like Kamsa, he had many advisors, and he was a king, so he had advisors. King had advisors in those days who were supposed to be wiser than them. So once he got predicted that Vishnu will kill him. So he asked his advisors, how can I avoid it? And his advisor said, don't worry. Vishnu is within the heart of everybody. He cannot get out. They told this to Kamsa. Don't worry. Vishnu, he is locked in everybody's heart, together with the soul. He cannot get out. He cannot do you any harm. Don't worry. Just continue with your demonic activities, destroying everything, killing everybody. Don't worry. Vishnu cannot come out. He is locked there. And Kamsa said, very good. Good advice. So anyway, so sometimes these demons, they are very, they are demoniac. Their demonic thoughts bring them to their own destruction. There is sometimes in Bhagavatam there is many stories about demons. There is one story which I think it's especially funny, and this is the story of churning the milk ocean. there was big problems in the universe. There was war, and the demons were fighting with the demigods. And anyway, it's like nowadays, more or less. So they came out to this point through the mediation of different incarnations of the Supreme Lord, that they should churn the milk ocean. So there was Kurma there was the earth, this, how do you call this mountain? Meru mountain. And they had to find a rope, so they went Vasuki. So they found Vasuki, and then the Supreme Lord Vishnu said, okay, so we're going to churn this milk ocean in order to produce nectar. You know, it's a little bit like when you make yogurt in the old days, or butter. You have a rope and a rod, and you just, before there was machines. So anyway, so Lord Vishnu said, okay, demigods, you hold the head of Vasuki, and demons, you hold the tail. The demons immediately protested. I mean, what is this? We want to hold the head. The demigod said, okay. Vishnu said, okay, hold the head. So they started to pull Vasuki. But because Vasuki is like dragon, so when they start to push Vasuki, fire started to come from the mouth of Vasuki. And the demons, they wanted to have the head, but they got completely burned from this enormous fire. You can do this sometimes on the old pictures of the churning of milk ocean. You can see these demons completely black, burned by the flames emanating from the mouth of Vasuki. So they normally go on with their activities until they are destroyed. We can also see this in the Battle of Kurukshetra. You know, they went on humiliating the Pandavas, insulting Draupadi, and this brought them to destruction. So we're going to read the last paragraphs. So in the Brahma Samhita, it said that Govinda, the primeval Lord, enters everything in his plenary portion. So he enters the universe as well as all the atoms of the universe. He is outside of everything in his Virat form, universal form. And he is within everything as Antaryami. Antaryami. As Antaryami, he witnesses everything that is going on, and he awards us the results of our actions as karma pala. We ourselves may forget that we have done in previous lives, but because the Lord witnesses our actions, the results of our actions are always there, and we have to undergo the reactions nonetheless. So sometimes we think, I will do this and nobody will see. I will do some cheating, or I will do some sinful activity. Nobody will see. But actually, you don't even have to go to the super soul, this Antaryami, to have a witness, because like you have the different demigods, like the demigod of the air, Vayu. Vayu is aware of everything which happens in the air. If you do something, and I mean we all, unless we go maybe with a spacesuit outside where there is no air, but here there is air everywhere. So actually Vayu is sufficient to be a witness of our actions. The sun also, everything which happens on the rays of the sun witnesses actually, because the sun is also a person, Ravi. And the moon. So there is many witnesses, but of course the main witness is the super soul, Antaryami. So he awards us the results of our karma. Even if we don't remember what we have done, things are somehow recorded. another time we can speak a little bit more about the intricacies of karma. It's not just black and white, but so the fact is that there is nothing but God within and without. Everything is manifested by his different energies, just as heat and light emanate from fire, and in this way there is a oneness among the diverse energies. Although there is oneness, the Lord in his personal form still enjoys all that is enjoyable to the senses of the minuscule part and parcels living entities. I don't understand this sentence. Although there is oneness, the Lord in his personal form still enjoys all that is enjoyable to the senses of the minuscule part and parcel living entities. I don't fully understand this, I must say. But the point is that if we actually develop God consciousness, because in devotional service, you know that we have different steps. The first step is Shravanam. We listen. Second step is Kirtanam. We repeat, we narrate, we chant. The third step is Smaranam. We remember. So we should come as soon as possible to this stage of remembering the Lord constantly in all our activities. Whatever we are doing, just remember, I'm walking by the grace of the Lord. I'm in a park. Look at all this beautiful nature created by God. Taking care of your children. Look how God was so kind and entrusted me, these children, to my care. Smaranam. So this is, let's say, Shravanam, Kirtanam, you can execute mechanically. Right? Maybe sometimes it actually happens to me. I'm reading a book and I'm thinking about something else. What did I read? I don't remember anything about these 2-3 last pages, so I have to go back. So, Shravanam, Kirtanam, we can do mechanically. But Smaranam is the first platform where actually you notice that you're actually making progress. When you are able, in the evening, how many hours today did I think about Krishna? 10 hours, 11 hours, 12 hours? No. We start with minutes. We should start very humbly. So today I remember Krishna 5 times. Not bad. Let me try to remember Krishna 6 times tomorrow. 6 times 15 seconds. That's 1.5 minutes. And so on. So this progress in remembrance has to be there. We have to bring Krishna into our consciousness and let Krishna become a part of our life, because then we'll actually start to to feel the change, how our life is changing, because as it was said here in the purport before, how Krishna starts to personally take care of us as his devotees and direct our life and keep us away from trouble. Because this material world is a very dangerous place. Anyway, I'll finish here. I think I'm already over time. So if you have any questions or comments, welcome. Hare Krishna.
I have a lot of questions.
Oh no.
And the other time it is limited.
You decide.
And everyone maybe have some more questions. And just I came with one, starting in beginning, where you mentioned in beginning, like everyone in Krishna consciousness, it is like doubting the things and not understanding everything. What you can advise for everyone to make progress and to understand more and to see the picture of what we are supposed to know about in this reality and to connect more with the God, the Supreme, and to go back to the God?
I could say many things, but we have a process. This process starts basically, as far as I've understood, with chanting. the Hare Krishna mantra. So one thing which can help us a lot, and we can change our consciousness, our vision, our awareness, is the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra in the form of japa, or in the form of kirtan, or in the form of bhajans. This is a very good starting point. Another point which we can immediately apply is that everything that we do and everything that we eat, we offer to Krishna. So if we make a meal, we offer it to Krishna, and then we take the remnants of Krishna. Because when we take the remnants of food which is offered to the deity, this food is not material anymore. It becomes prasadam. So gradually you change the cells of your body from we actually used to make this joke in the old days, because Srila Prabhupada says somewhere that after 7 years, all the cells of the body are changed. So you say, okay, you've been 7 years in ISKCON, so now your body is made of prasadam. So these are simple steps which we can take because we have to start somewhere. There's this Chinese saying, how do you say? A journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step. So this is a very good step if we can chant japa, if we can, in our life, if we can chant the holy name of the Lord and try to progress in chanting and listening to the mantra. Because, I mean, chanting, of course, you can chant like a parrot, but what is important is listening also, simultaneous listening. So these two things and offer prasadam, they're very good beginning. And very pleasant also. More questions?
Wonderful.
Okay. Any questions from our rest of our audience?
I can do one more.
Please.
In the end, you mentioned again, it is like more to connect with the God and with the Krishna. We need to have in our mind and more and more to
remembrance.
With and for the people already, they are engaged in the service to the Krishna. This it is like come automatic, or still they need to repeat or to have the Krishna's name?
I can give you a good example. When Arjuna was fighting in the battle of Kurukshetra and shooting arrows, do you think he was thinking about Krishna? No, he was not thinking about Krishna. He was thinking, I must direct this arrow in the proper place. He was not, he was focusing on that, but because he was doing that on the order of Krishna, it became spiritual. So, devotional service, if you think about these 9 processes of devotional service, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Vandanam, Archanam, Dasyam, and so on. So service comes there. So when you're executing devotional service, you focus. But when you have difficulties in devotional service, you can pray to Krishna. Because, we are acting in the material world. So for sure there will be problems in different things. Like I know all the temples, they have problems with money. How to solve this. We can pray to Krishna to help us in those things. But when we are doing, even if one is giving a lecture, you have to keep a certain logic, so that people understand what you say. If you start to think about Krishna, maybe you will just wander off somewhere else. So when one is doing service, one focus on the service. There is also another interesting story, which I think it's also related with Arjuna. They had this competition to win the hand of Draupadi, yeah? And the competition was, I think they had a container with either water or oil, some kind of mirror, simple mirror, and then they have hung fish on the ceiling of the palace, which was very, very high. And then those who reached who were be able to shoot the eye of the fish, they would win the hand of Draupadi. So there was all these princes, and they were all failing because, I mean, it's very difficult. You're looking down and you're shooting up. I mean, it's it's a connection. So somebody, I don't remember if it was Krishna, asked Arjuna, "What do you see? Do you see the fish?" Arjuna said, "No." "What do you see?" "I see the eye of the fish." That means he was completely focused. So devotional service demands this focus and this carefulness. Yeah. Another thing which is important in devotional service is that we always execute devotional service together with other devotees, especially if you're running an ISKCON center. I mean, it's always nicer if it's several devotees and they can help each other, because if everything falls on one person, sometimes it's just too much. But regarding the thinking, when you're doing practical, like if you are cooking, you may be, I mean, there is the understanding, I'm cooking in order for this to be offered to Krishna. So therefore, like for instance, I will not taste the food before it's offered to Krishna. I will be clean. There are certain regulations. But when you are cooking, you focus on the cooking. And so on and so on. When you're doing bookkeeping, you focus on the bookkeeping. Okay? Anything else? I should finish for...
Yeah, and thank you very much.
Welcome.
You mentioned about, like, we need to do it together. It's so important. This morning I think it's the same thing. And it is not just nice. And sometimes we can be like a little more weak, or it is the other devotees, they can help and create the service and to go in nicely programmed every Sunday. And really I want to ask all the devotees, you are welcome if you feel to do some service or to help for the future to continue like the programs.
Very nice.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Emma,
Thank you.
for arranging the Sunday feasts. Hare Krishna. And back to Dimitri for Bhakta Ravi. Where is Mohini?
Mohini cannot,
Okay.
Today, not comfortable to come.
Okay. So anyway, it's nice how Mom is developing, everything's going on nicely. So I think Krishna will be happy. Okay, thank you very much. All glories to Guru and Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Jai. Now for businesses. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhakti Vedanta Sarvam Namaste Saraswati.